What is going on, party people in the house? Happy Wednesday, February the 25th. Your uncle's here live, funky fresh in the flesh. And my man Mike Torres is in here. We're going to really break down and dissect one of the more important things and one of the important aspects of the off season, some of the team building things that are going to occur. And, again, I told you I missed Sark on Monday, but so I'm really spending this week kind of breaking down and dissecting what I believe are going to be the important parts of the things that he discussed before we get into spring practice. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. We have much to discuss today. I'm in a fantastic mood today. I told y'all the other day, I got my stuff stolen. And my wallet stolen and everything like that. Got a new wallet, though. Got a little orange in it, too, right? Y'all like that? Got a little orange, little tint to it. I'm feeling pretty good about it. And don't make fun. I got that's all I had. That's all the money I had. I get what I thought you might. I did this. I thought you might like the orange hue to my new wallet. So I got some debit cards, credit cards. So I'm getting back into business, and all I need is a driver's license, and I'm going to be good to go. So almost there. I'm going to tweet this thing out too as well. So man, I hope everyone's doing good on it. I literally had to ask my son's mom for money. She was in the tournament as well. I was like, can I borrow some money from you? So I gotta send her some money back through Venmo today. So anyway, good morning to everybody. One of the things that we were going to get into, I don't know what kind of brand it is. I got it off of Amazon. What is it? I'll put it in the chat for you so you can see it. But it's supposed to have the thing on here where if someone tries to get your card information, it's supposed to have like a protector on the outside as well. But I'll look it up while we're talking. Anyway, one of the things that Sark spent a lot of time on, and I'll get to you, Thievery, when we get into the audio portion. I'll find it for you. One of the things that we spent, Text Bond, I thought about you yesterday as well. I hope you're doing well. One of the things we spent a lot of time on on Monday is Sark talked a lot about culture. And he spent it is funny because I called on Monday afternoon. I called my guy Mike Harge, who's a good friend of mine, and I was like, "Hey man, break down to me what Sark was talking about," because my son was playing. He was over at IMG. They were finishing up their third straight loss. They got an ass kicked in two out of those three losses. But you know what? I tell my son, some days you're the dog, other days you're the tree. Hey, this weekend you was the tree. So, but other days you go and you're the dog, right? So, in any case, I asked Harge, like, what is the most important thing? And I do have a digital wallet though. But here's the deal. I had to cancel my debit card. So when I had to cancel my debit card, that canceled out the cards in my digital wallet. So that's unfortunate. I had to cancel my credit card and debit card. And so once you do that, it didn't matter what I had to Apple Pay. It was a wrap. So, okay, anyway. And I guess technically I could probably link my bank account directly outside the debit card. I hadn't done that. Okay. One of the things Harge had told me, he said, hey, Sark talked a lot about culture today. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Culture. We're back on a culture thing. And I understand the importance of the conversation as far as culture concerned. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. The culture is an interesting thing because it's a little abstract, right? It's not like the strength and conditioning program where we can measure gains, right? It's one of these things that you think the culture's there, but it's a hard thing for me to culture because like I said yesterday, culture sounds good, but Parker Livingston was about culture. Trey Wiseman was about culture. DeAndre Moore was about culture. These were culture guys, but yet those guys, they left. So what does culture really mean when it's all said and done? But I think within the parameters of the off season and the regular season, I think culture becomes important because I think it's an easy, it's an easy word, but I think it's more about if we just dissect the whole culture thing, it's just more about like expectations more so than anything else. Setting the expectations of what to expect here at this program. And every year is a different year, right? And Sark would talk about every team is a different team, and every year you have to reestablish, culture and how important that is. And again, I know it could be like conversations about the offensive line or culture. And I know at some point you're like, look, man, whatever. Just put out the wins, right? I don't care what y'all do. Y'all could be out there with McConaughey banging like the bongos naked in the front yard. As long as y'all win, we really don't care. But I think it is an important thing because one of the things Sark talks about, and we'll have to factor in, and especially in this new era of college football, right? There's so much movement every offseason now. Like every offseason now, everybody's going somewhere. Like everybody's coming and going. And so every year you got a bunch of new people coming into your program, and they have things that their expectations for the other program. And now you have to come into this new program. It's funny. I was talking to one of my friends. His son transferred into Prairie View as a grad transfer, and I was talking to him yesterday, and his son was kind of complaining a little bit because the coach at Prairie View won't necessarily give the players like Prairie View gear yet, like the Prairie View bag or anything to that effect. And essentially the coach is like, you guys have to earn it. However, he kind of went to that Dion thing, which is, but wherever you transfer from, you can't wear other schools' gear in my facility. And it's like, well, they don't give us no gear, but I don't know. I don't have the gear. And then I was like, well, why? Just okay. What's the problem? Well, it's Adidas gear. I'm like, who the hell cares? Go out to Walmart and buy something to put your bags in and just call it a day, right? But I understood, like the coach is like, this is our culture, and this are the things that we're establishing here. And so that's the expectations, right? And so this becomes kind of the culture and expectations here. So Sark, when he spoke, had a lot of interesting things to say that I really want to kind of. Good morning to you, Voodoo. Good to see you, Lewis Gaines. I haven't seen you in a while, Lewis. It's good to see you. It's been a hot minute, Lewis. Maybe you've been watching, but it's good to see you here, Lewis. I hope you've been doing well. Hope the family's well, everything like that, right? So, in any case, let's get into what Sark kind of spoke about yesterday. Let's kind of break down the film. I think there's a lot of interesting.
I think from a roster breakdown. I think from a roster breakdown, pretty interesting. I think we're probably the epitome of college football today. We had 40 scholarship players leave our program off of last year's team. 24.
Wait. He said, I'm going to start this from the beginning because I was talking over the beginning. Mike Harge. Is that my guy, Mike? That's not Mike Harge. It's Mike Harge. My dude. That's my guy. I just was talking about you. Did you hear what I was saying? It's good to talk. It's good to see Mike Harge.
I think
make sure you check him out on the Zone and check out the show. Put all your information out there, Harge, so everybody can check you out when they're not watching your favorite
roster breakdown. Pretty interesting. I think we're probably the epitome of college football today. We had 40 scholarship players leave our program off of last year's team. 24 portal transfers, 3 early entries into the NFL draft, and then 13 seniors. We've added 43 scholarship players with 19 portal guys coming in, 24 freshmen, 22 of which are already here. And so, as I touched on a lot of different times along the way in our journey here, you have to adapt, and I felt like this year more than ever, we've had to continually adapt to the times of college football in college athletics and what's happening right now. And so I'm very pleased with the additions that we've made so far. Like I said, we're closing in on the end of February. We got a long way to go. But when you bring in 43 new players into a roster, into a locker room, into a culture, I think one of the main challenges is becoming a team.
By the way, that's a hell of a lot of players. But I think when Sark says, hey, this is kind of where college football is right now, I think you got to understand, like, he's 100% correct. Like, that turnover, and now don't forget, he's adding in high school players as well, right? But we're also in the era of pretty much everybody gets here in January. Like, everyone steps on campus in January. So he's adding in transfer portal players. He's adding in high school players into that total to then say that many people. Now, again, back in the day, nobody showed up until summer. So, your team was your team. The freshmen came in and they just had to kind of get in where they fit in. Now, everybody's showing up in January. Everybody's starting from scratch. Everybody's coming from different things. And, now you got money in it. I get paid this, I get paid that, I get paid that. And just sometimes people change, attitudes change, especially when the money is involved. So there becomes this thing that, okay, everybody's cool, everybody's going to get their check, but now we need to work on, you're not arrived. We need to start working on the ultimate goal. All your ego to the side. Now, how do we work on the ultimate goal? And that's where Sark is at. And he's going to talk a little bit more about the Culture Wednesday things, but it gets really interesting there. Good morning to you, Michelle, as well.
And just like
hard
with the team about a month and a half ago, I said, I looked around the room. I said, we've got a very talented group of individuals in this room, and now our job is to become a really talented team. And so we've probably done more work this time of year than we ever have in the past from a culture development standpoint. A lot of that culture work, we would wait until June and July because that was the old model. That was when the majority of your players arrived, was after school. And now we've moved that up, and we started that the first week of February. And I think it's been very helpful, not only for the new players, the high school kids, the transfers that had come in, but I think our own current players, because we've got now players on a roster that are ascending into leadership roles. And so that's been really good. And it's been very interesting to talk to players coming from other programs. Like I said, we've got 19 players from other programs now that have come in. They haven't done things like this before. And so it does reinforce some thoughts that what we do is somewhat unique to us, and it's very valuable to us. And so that's been a great process, and I'm really proud of the guys, the way they're working right now in the winter conditioning program and getting themselves ready for spring practice.
By the way, in some of this, when he talks about culture, we'll get into, I want to make sure that doesn't get like too vague, right? Some of the things that, when he's talking about the culture, it has a lot to do with their Cultural Wednesdays, right? And Cultural Wednesdays, for those you don't know, is almost like a day of transparency, right? Where everyone's kind of sitting around and almost what you would kind of consider, in our layman's terms, like a therapy session, right? A group therapy session, right? And it's about having a topic and being able to then talk about said topic, and then people really kind of talk about their own personal experiences, right? And and so now you get to know, okay, where do you come from, and what are some of your backgrounds and some of your thoughts and your beliefs, and by the thought process is, by doing those things, you kind of become more of a brotherhood, you kind of become more togetherness, and the more you do of that, usually you feel like you're going to fight for each other a little bit more, right? Just knowing that person, which is true, right? Harge is in here. Harge and I are boys, right? And so Harge, it's easy for him to pop in my show and want to support, right? Because we have relationship, right? The same way it's easy for me to go and listen to him and Mark Henry, right? Because we have like that kind of relationship, right? And the more time you spend around someone, the easier that relationship could be. The most fascinating thing You know, the most fascinating thing in life is you think about your dog, right? You think about your dog, some of you are cat people, but you think about your dog, right? It is fascinating how you and that dog can be so connected, right? You can look at your dog and be like, "What's wrong?" Right? Right? You look hungry. You look hungry, don't you? You look hungry, right? You need some. Oh, you might need some water. You want to go outside, right? And you can tell like, oh, you have all that. And this dog cannot communicate to you in an English language. But what happens? Because the more time you spend around the dog, the more you get to know the dog. The dog gets to know you. You're sick. You didn't tell the dog you're sick, but the dog looks in your face and can tell you're sick. And now they're sitting at your bed, right? On the foot of your bed, right? All those things, right? And it's it's not verbal communication, but it's the time that you spend together that makes the connection so strong. And because of that time that you spend together, you don't even have to say a word. You can just look and like know that there's something wrong or something happy or something like that. If only we can do that in relationships, right? Should be that easy. But the more time you spend together, the easier it is to know that person, right? And so they do this. The Culture Wednesdays is to kind of design in order to get to know each other better. So therefore, you fight for each other just a little bit more, right? So someone said Rudolph was a cat person. It's something interesting when you go to some dude who's like, I got a cat. You're like, oh, really? That's interesting. Okay. Anyway, let's keep going. I didn't want the definition of culture to kind of get lost without having some specifics, and I don't want to wait like another 10 minutes to really get into that.
As you all know, from a spring practice perspective, we'll start March 9th, and we'll go 3 practices that week, and that'll be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mm-hmm. We'll do 3 practices, and then we'll go to spring break, and then we'll come back and do 12 more, and those will be a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday format. And again, there's been years we've done this. I think we've done this once or twice in the past. And a lot of that, quite frankly, it's not because I want to or I don't want to. It's more predicated on our final schedule, truthfully. When I was like, well, why are they doing that this way this year? It's because, to be fair to our players, our players have to go to school at the University of Texas. They have to go in person. We don't get to go online every day and do it maybe like some other folks get to do it. And so I have to give them a week to get ready for finals. If I would have pushed spring ball all the way back till after spring break, we would be butting up right to finals. So that's the genesis of why we're doing it that way this year. And then we try to find the benefits in doing it that way. I think it gives us a chance. One, with a lot of new faces, some new coaches, a new defensive scheme, to get the base install done in the first week, let them go on spring break, and then come back and kind of do it again.
You talked a lot about the culture, and that's...
And here's Bob Ballou with another kind of culture question. I feel like that one kind of got cut off. It was a little bit choppy, but it's okay. And you got the gist of it, right? So Bob Ballou is asking another culture question as well. And again, important thing, right? As far as laying the foundation, the building blocks for the upcoming season, you can have a group full of talented athletes, but if you have a group full of individuals, then that's somewhat, counterproductive, right? So I totally get it. Bob Ballou with another one.
Got here, it's been kind of a big thing. I don't know if it's a frustration level or how
and I don't think Bob has a pet, though, to my knowledge. He has a daughter, but he doesn't have a pet.
What are the lessons you've learned in
Sandman, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you, Sandman? Sandman, what is wrong with you? Something's wrong with you. Okay, let's go.
Change the roster the way you did and trying to get it to where you want it by August. And you played great for the last half of the year.
Yeah.
But trying to figure all that out with your team. What have you learned, and maybe what are some of your questions?
Yeah, no, I would say this. I always do an audit of the entire organization at the end of every season. And that audit starts with me first, and then it gets to either side of the ball, and then it gets to the locker room and so on and so forth, the training room, the weight room, all the things that we do. And I will tell you the first area where I felt like I didn't do a good enough job was exactly that. I was still stuck in the old model. I didn't start, we traditionally do our Culture Wednesday work, which I've talked about with you guys different times. We start that in June, and we do that all June, July, August to get ready for the season. Well, where I missed the mark in this day and age is how many kids in high school now are mid-years. I just told you, we signed 24 freshmen this year. 22 of them enrolled in January. We've signed 19 transfers. I think 18 of them are here already. If I would wait until June to start our culture work, that's 5 months or so of these guys developing their own culture organically. That happens. And there's going to be some good aspects of that, and there's going to be some bad habits that I'm going to have to break. And so what did I learn? Last year, our culture started to form without us really pouring into it the way that I would have liked to do it. That's why we moved it to February this year, February, March, April, and then go back to it again in June, July, and August, where I think that in essence, I felt like I was breaking bad habits of our culture all the way up until the season, even the start of the season. And to me, that played a part of us maybe not playing as good a football early in the season. And again, there's a lot of other factors. There were some youth issues on the offensive side of the ball. That's not to make excuses. That's to look in the mirror of where can I improve it? Where can I get better? Well, let's do it earlier, and let's start it now. And I think it's been tremendous. And everything now, we've had 3 Culture Wednesdays so far. The response from all of the players has been incredible. The vets who have been here 3 and 4 years to the guys who just showed up on campus, they've been really pleased with that aspect of it. Now, on the same token, I think we need to teach football and teach our style of football. I don't want to say sooner because we've always done it early, but really digging into the little things so that they can catch up to how and why we do what we do. I think the modern athlete today wants to know the whys more than anything. They just don't want to be told what to do and how to do it. They want to know why they're doing it that way. And I think that's part of our youth today. So we're getting to the why much sooner than we ever have to motivate that. This is why you're doing it this way, and here's the outcome of what we're trying to get accomplished. And so I think those 2 things are probably the 2 biggest shifts for us to hopefully get us further along down the road come Labor Day weekend of playing the type of football that we need to play.
Okay, so there's a couple of things. First of all, I think Tex Blonde hits on it and kind of nails it on the head. We talk about Sandman. He needs Culture Wednesdays year round. Ain't that the damn truth? And but you know what the thing is about Sandman though, and Sandman is I get Sandman's frustration. I actually practically do, because Sandman is that saying like, don't show me the labor, show me the baby. Like, I get it. But you know the thing is, Sandman, everybody else, when you win, all these things seem like they matter, right? All these things, like whether we're having a conversation about culture, you remember, Charlie never won, right? But if he did, I've always talked about the Florida 5, how that was everyone loved that, right? Remember Charlie said he was going to put the T back in Texas, right? You remember that? Oh, we'll put the T back in Texas. He just put the L back in losing, right? But he said all those kind of things, and everybody was all happy about that. And you remember when part of the quote unquote culture was when like Tom Herman was like making everybody into like tough guys, right? So you remember like he had these groups, and it was like if you were doing something good, you could get like steak and garlic mashed potatoes, and you get all these the dessert machines and all these kind of things. But if not, you got like burnt hot dogs, right, and burnt toast. And all these things. And it was like, but that was supposed to be a part of the culture that made you kind of make this team tougher and all those kind of things, right? And so that's what I'm saying. Like there's these subjective things that if you win, it sounds great. If you don't win, people like Sandman are saying, I don't give a damn. And I get it. And Texas won. They won 10 games. But I honestly, as much of a hard time as I'm giving Sandman, and it's all out of love for Sandman. And anyway, because Matt got a chance to meet him. Pretty good dude. I think you, Sandman, Tex Blonde, myself, we need to go to that country bar in Cedar Park one Saturday night and have a good time. Any case, one by what is it, 180? No, by the toll road and stuff. We should go to that one. I forget what the name is called. We're gonna go one weekend. I get it though. You get to that place where you're just like, okay, I get the frustration, but I also think it's also important, though, if Sark believes this is something that needs to be done, then so be it, right? If this is what he feels like this is getting him back to where things were, like, so be it. And if he feels like, hey, I've done this audit, I could have done things differently, I didn't do things. There you go, Stephanie, Wild West. I've been out there a few times. That's pretty cool. I had a good time. Got an Uber though. We ain't gonna end up in Wilco over the weekend. I can tell you that damn much. he ain't putting my black eyes in Wilco. Talking about I'm gonna get out on Monday. Hell no. We will Uber our asses there. But yeah, and so you're gonna hear a lot from Sark about culture throughout the off season. You're going to hear him talk about it when spring ball begins. You're going to hear him talking about it when we get to the meetings, the spring meetings. And you're going to hear him talk about the culture that was established once we get to SEC Media Days. But at the end of the day, if Texas doesn't achieve what they ultimately want to achieve, because at the end of the day, Texas hasn't hasn't cornered the market on quote unquote culture, right? Every team is establishing culture, right? That's why every team. It's funny, every team talks about their strength and conditioning program as if they're the only one doing strength and conditioning. And we all know, like, everybody's out there doing strength and conditioning. I haven't been to Hotspot, though. Yeah, check it out, though. But every team's doing strength and conditioning the same way every team is doing culture stuff, right? So it may not be specific to what Texas is doing, but I get where Sandman is coming from. All right, that sounds cool. Does it mean you're going to win? Because did you lose games because of culture? And did you lose because it's Ohio State and it was, did the culture have anything to do about, short yardage gains in that game or not? Was culture the reason why Arch Manning struggled in that game when there was no run game, right? I get all those things. But nonetheless, hey, if Sark says it's important, it's important. He's trying to establish it. And let's see what happens. And I'm sure he's going to keep us abreast of it. But I have heard, Muschamp, Jaluk, Gideon, of course, he's returning to it, right? But I've heard that all those guys have been embracing the whole Culture Wednesdays kind of thing and, really trying to open themselves up and, Muschamp trying to get to know these guys. And ultimately, those guys will play for him, but ultimately having that relationship, hopefully it means something. But as we all know, when the portal opens, culture will go out the window. It will go back to individualism. And that's why I say it's probably more important to have it now in the off season and the regular season. And then when we get to the end of the season, well, then it just kind of is what it is. But hopefully if Texas is winning, then the culture does mean something. So let's see what happens with that. I want to make sure Sandman really is feeling himself this morning. All right, I don't have anything. All right, cool. No super chats in here, which is more than good. Let me get out of here. And what I always say, live each day like it's your last. One day it will be. So go out, do something nice for yourself. I got money. I can do something nice for myself today. which all just means I'm just gonna go for a walk in the neighborhood and get some fresh air, get my cardio in, so I can stay healthy for this program in front of them kids. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. I will be back tomorrow. Y'all take care. Culture. Sandman says he loves culture. Sandman loves culture as much as Rodolfo loves Jay Witt. Now, that, my friend, is a hell of an analogy